Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to another presentation of And the Winners Are, presented by the SPORTSKRIB Network. Um, Boy, that Thursday night game. I'm going to talk a little bit about that since Mike is a Colts fan here. And wow. Anyway, so uh, how is everybody's fantasy season starting out? I've finally gotten off the snide in the Sports Crib League. And let's get all the commercial stuff out of the way. First of all, if you're on YouTube, you can please like and subscribe to our channel. And all donations are accepted at Cash App, $ JE King 3. And we appreciate all donations, and they all go toward these podcasts that you see us present. So, getting back on track here, um, we are, of course, going to talk about your starters and sit-ups. And let's get Mike in here. Our fantasy guru and Colt fan,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Valverde. Mike, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, sir. How about yourself?
I'm still, like my head is still exploding from that game last night.
I don't blame you. As you mentioned, I am a Colts fan, and if your head was exploding, you can imagine what mine was doing. It exploded and then it re-exploded, I think, or whatever possible. I don't know, but it was worse. It was horrible. It was just one of the worst games I've seen in my life. In watching football for 42 years. So I don't know about your history as where you would rank this game, but for me, yeah, definitely one of the worst.
Absolutely. I mean, uh, seriously, yeah. You have Russell Wilson. Yeah, okay. Look.
I think that's all you need to say is Russell Wilson.
uh, let's. I'm going to say this for our NFL segment here, because there's a couple questions that I want you to address as far as the college footballs is concerned. And we've been talking about this NIL situation for a long time, many years, as a matter of fact. Do you think that schools should be obligated to disclose what's happening with? I don't mean as far as like dollar for dollar, but like you know, maybe what players are really benefiting from this, and what players are maybe maybe it doesn't affect them as much. But when you have that much coming in, that much money coming in, don't you think that somebody should be responsible for keeping track of it?
Well, yeah, for sure. But before I begin, your sound is a little off. I don't know. It sounds like almost like a wire's not plugged in all the way. But yeah, to answer your question, I think that it's yeah. I when you're having college kids, I think you do expect a decent amount of privacy with what they're doing. That shouldn't be public knowledge. It's just because that's what it is with almost any juvenile situation. They're it's pretty public to protect them, but also how much are you giving up, and how much is it school oriented, and a lot of different various angles to the situation. It's not as simple. Okay, he's 16 years old, 17 years old. Well, he would be a little bit older than that, but and those kind of things. So I don't know. It's yeah, it's a little tricky. Oh, now I can't hear you. Oh, you're on mute.
Okay. I guess that would be a better reason for you not to be able to hear me, right? Since I'm on mute. You hear me now?
I do, but the sound is still not clear. I don't know if
What about now?
Oh, yeah, now you got it. Okay.
Okay.
There it
All
is.
right. All right. I guess I can't be cool and put it behind my ear. I said, okay. All right.
Offensive coordinator headset. That's what you got.
Oh man. So yeah, I got this one from the Broncos last night. Anyway,
Yeah. You probably could do better playing, making better play calls than they could, for sure.
Yeah, they told me it was broken. That's why they lost the game. But anyway,
Yeah.
they FedExed it to me overnight. So Wisconsin and Colorado coaches got fired this week. We've been talking about these coaches on the hot seat. We saw already what happened with Mr. Frost. So who are we going to be talking about next week in the unemployment line?
Oh, yeah. Is there continue to roll through, right? God, that's a good question. Hopefully none, but I'd have to look at like who's sliding in the rankings and who was good and then now is sort of just falling off. Any ideas?
Well, I mean, I know it's early, but I'm also thinking about the school. Oklahoma is out of the top 25 since 2009.
Wow.
It's part of the question that I was asking because I wasn't sure whether or not you were going to put this guy on the hot seat necessarily.
Oh, I think he definitely should be on the hot seat. They lost 3 in a row or 2 in a row?
Two. They won the first 3, and then they got beat. Who was the first one that beat them? Was it?
That's a good question. Let's see, Oklahoma schedule.
I know they got beat by TCU last week.
It's not too bad, but it's bad for Oklahoma.
Well, after starting out 3-0, I mean,
3-0, right?
So my question was, do you think that they're going to be gathering the kindling to burn him in effigy? We're talking about Brent Venerables here,
right? Okay, so they lost to number 20 Kansas State, 41-34.
And then got blown out last week by TCU, right?
By TCU, correct. 17 TCU, 55-24. That's not good.
Yeah, that's a beatdown.
And then their victories came against teams like UTEP, Kent State, Nebraska.
Right.
So it's
that was the game that was the game that got Frost fired, right?
Yes, that is true. Yes. So yeah, no, for sure he's on the hot seat without a doubt. He should be. We'll see what he does this week against Texas, but then he has Kansas. If he survives Texas, then he has Kansas the following week. In 2 weeks.
Kansas is ranked for the first time since what, 2000 or something. I mean,
it's got to be a long time, right?
Right. Yeah.
So if they lose to Texas and then lose to Kansas, I think he's done.
Yeah, you can't mess around with these rich schools, man. But do you think Coach Saban should rest Bryce Young to get ready for that big game with Tennessee?
I think it depends on how Bryce Young can be. Like a lot of quarterbacks and a lot of players, they need that steady rhythm, regardless of who they're playing. Just to keep up with all their mechanics and those kind of things. So if he can take a back seat and then jump back in cold, I agree, but I don't think they'll do that. I think he'll get benched regardless. In other words, they'll be up and then they'll say, okay, enough's enough. You got your reps in. We're good. Go ahead, take a seat. And then I don't know who the backup is. We'll bring him in and go from there.
Yeah. Like I'm not saying that I really think that Tennessee has a chance in this one, but they are ranked in any given Saturday, right?
Any given Saturday, absolutely. We've seen it every single year where multiple teams, top teams fall, and man, it's just like, wow, okay, maybe this will be upset Saturday.
Speaking of upset Saturday, do you see anything happening? Let's see. Ohio State's at Michigan State, I believe.
Nah, I think Ohio State should dominate that game. That offense is just so good. It's so good.
And where are you guys playing this week? You have a
Michigan,
Big Ten. You're playing in conference, right?
Yeah.
Indiana, maybe?
I think that's the correct call. I think. Let's see. I haven't looked it up, but I do believe it's Indiana, Michigan schedule. I know it's not a tough opponent. Yeah, you are correct. Indiana.
Okay. Yeah. Any well, I'll get into this next question here. You told me last week, you only look at the divas and the running backs and stuff.
Yes, I do.
So at this point in the year, who are your top 10 quarterback wide receiver combos in the nation?
Oh, that's a good one. I wrote it down.
You say you wrote.
Yeah, I had to go through this. Number one, Ohio State, CJ Stroud. And then you have JSN, Marvin Harrison, Emeka Egbuka, all the guys that you know. I mean, no wonder CJ Stroud is good. He's got 3 pro players that are going to be pro stars in the NFL throwing to. So he should be good. I mean, he is good. But
we're all of a sudden we're Midwestern Alabama, right? Yeah, wide receiver, right?
It is. Oh my God, it is for sure. And they're all top players too. I mean, all of them. It's not like one is 5 and the other one is 26 and the other one's 30, 55. I mean, these guys are all like top 15. 3 guys in the top 15 is just insane. I mean, no one touches this situation. Quarterback, wide receiver. No one is as good as Ohio State. A close second is USC. I think Caleb Williams, Mario, and then you have Mario Williams and then Jordan Addison. So those guys are pretty good. And then Alabama at 3, Texas at 4, and then I have Clemson at 5, North Carolina, Kentucky.
So you had that much faith in the quarterback at Clemson? He's been.
He's young. But I like the fact that Bo Collins and Adam Randall are really solid, and it sort of slims out once you hit like the 4 and 5. The wide receiver quarterback combinations sort of become 1-on-1, and Clemson has like two wide receivers and Kate Klubenik. So it sort of has that give or take situation once you get past like Alabama. Quinn Ewers and Xavier Worthy, for example, in Texas are fantastic, but it's only them two, and Quinn Ewers is a young guy too, young buck as well. But yeah, BYU I have 8, Penn State 9, and then Penn State at 10 with Drew Eller and Parker Washington.
So who do you have at 9?
At 9, let's see. At 9, I have BYU with Jaron Hall and Puka Nacua. Puka.
Okay. All right. let's see. Bill says he might be here, but who knows? But if he does get here, we might be done. I
Yeah.
told him, you know. Uh, so NFL. Now, okay. I know, we talked a little bit about, Russell Wilson and what's happening, with the Broncos. Okay. So I since it was a Thursday night game and there was no other game to watch, I had to watch this one. So I noticed a few things. Now, as we spoke, as we have said before, Russell Wilson's getting a little bit older. Maybe Sierra's telling him, look, you can't come home like this, with bruises all over. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on there because he does seem very hesitant to run. But
Yes.
but he started off the game running with effect. And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden in the second half, it's like he got gunshot,
Hmm.
you know. But even on a bad day, you walk Russell Wilson up to the line behind center and you can't get 7 inches.
Yeah.
I mean, so now once again, we had talked before, are there certain situations where your quarterback has to overrule your head coach when you're down that close to the goal line? I mean, what's the difference between missing 4th and inches with Russell Wilson carrying the ball or missing fourth down completely when he throws an incomplete pass? What are the odds that you can fumble the ball in 6 inches? I know you can, but I mean, even on a safe play, and
Right.
like you said, I mean, uh, I think at that particular moment, I could have played offensive coordinator very successfully. Russell go up to the ball, hike it on the first count, and we either make it or we don't.
Yeah. Well, it looked like they were going to do that too. They rushed to the ball, and then they were looked like they were in a hurry up, and then they stood there, and then the Colts called the timeout, and then they left the field, talked, whatever, and then they came back, and then whatever, a few seconds later, they were looking like they were stalling time. Time was running, and then they called the timeout and went back and discussed it, and then they came out, and that was the decision according to Hackett. He was given a run and a pass play, and this is on Russ, and Russ chose the pass, so it's Russ's fault.
So and that's another thing, the consistency. Last week it was one excuse.
Yep.
This week, well, it was Russ's fault. This week, Russ should have ran it. But you've told him, not to run.
Right. Yeah.
But so in that case, he should have overruled me. But last week, he should have followed my lead.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Yeah, I know. It's just horrible. I mean, you have a really bad head coach who makes really bad decisions in crucial times, and then you have Russell Wilson who isn't doing what he typically does, as you mentioned, running the ball. And he doesn't look bad doing it. I mean, like you said, he had
No.
15-yard or something, 20-yard run. It's just I don't I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but it seems like they're all scrambling for answers, and none of them are right.
And now with the Javante Williams going on IR, and Melvin Gordon didn't do a bad job last night. I mean, to me, if he was your second choice. You either Russ does the quarterback sneak or you give it to Melvin Gordon. He just wasn't he the one that got you there?
Right. Yeah, yeah. They had two. I think it was Mike Boone, and it was Gordon, who both had right after the Colts kicked the field goal in overtime. They had those two huge runs, and then
Right.
they were like, "No, we're not going to run anymore. We're going to start throwing the ball." And it's just like, you just had like a 25 and a 20-yard run. Why are you stopping doing? Just keep running the ball, And yeah.
Okay. Now we got to go to the other side of the ball. 4 quarters, 4 field goals.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Horrible.
I mean, can we blame that on the play calling? I mean, Pittman was just coming back, so I mean, he didn't have an overwhelming game, but he's just coming back. But I don't know. I felt more like I was at a baseball game, just a little bit high,
Yeah.
a little bit low, just on the outside. I mean, what's going on there, man? I mean, you guys really gave up a wins.
Yep. For Ryan, who like you mentioned is high, low, outside. I mean, there's times when he throws the ball up and it just flutters up there, and I'm just like, okay, still in the air. Yeah, it's still in the air. Okay, well, there it is, still up in the air.
I think I went out last night and got a soda and came back and it was still
Exactly, it was still in the air. It's just like it's horrible. I mean, there are times where he looks like a Hall of Fame quarterback, and then there are times when he looks like he should never have taken a pro snap in his entire life. I think there's probably more times when he looks crappy. I mean, especially when you consider the fumbles and the interceptions and all that kind of stuff. That, never mind the ends, the highs and the lows as far as where he's placing the ball. I mean, he's fumbling and throwing interceptions as well. And the arm strength isn't there as we talked about, but like it's just. But then he goes and he drives the team down and they kick the winning field goal, and he's done that twice now. And then had the game tying situation against Houston. So it's weird. It's like, okay, why can't you just make up your mind? Either you're going to be really good and efficient, or you're just going to suck. And pick one. That way we know what to do with you.
Well, no, I can't give you guys any credit for last night, for winning last night's game. I got to put the whole blame on that to the Broncos. When you get down,
sure.
So
Those
you might, yeah, and so now. And this really hurt me last night. The absence of Jonathan Taylor. How long is he going to be out? Because you guys really look like crap when he's not in the game.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Philip Lindsay did an adequate job. Deion Jackson was okay as well. They're very much situational running backs, but they're not combined. They're not Jonathan Taylor. So, I don't know if he'll be back next week, but it's not going to be more than next week. He'll be back either the following week in 2 weeks, or he'll be back next week. So it's not a huge thing, thankfully, but we might have to go one more game without him.
Okay, and of course, we got to mention the concussion thing, because I noticed last night, as soon as I think it was one of your players, right?
Yes, it was Nyheim Hines.
Yeah, that got hit, and as soon as I mean, it was automatic. You saw like 4 guys around him. One coach is standing in front of him, looking at his eyes the whole time that he's walking. What do you think? About the safety concerns of the players union, as well as the league itself. They fired the doctor that okayed for Tua to come back in the game. So although I think that they were both called for, but it just showed me the sense of urgency that they seem to have about solving this problem, or at least minimalizing it as much as they can.
Yeah, I don't think they can minimize it anymore, but you're right. The moment Nyheim Hines got up and he sort of did the wobble thing that Tua did, I'm like, it don't matter if he cleared protocol, he's going to be out. They're not going to let him back in.
I don't think there was a protocol. It's like, you wobbled. Let's
They're
go.
done. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're not coming back out. We don't even need to run the test. You're not coming out.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because the players go on to go back in. Hey, coach, I'm fine. Put me back. Send me back in. Throw some dirt on it. I'm good.
Yeah, he even tried to run too. Like,
yeah.
And they're like, "Oh no,
no, don't."
So, yeah, and then what I've heard is that the players passed a safety test. I don't know what in details. That was about 2 hours ago, I believe. So, who knows what that is? But I guess they're moving closer or finalizing or whatever they're needing to do to make it more safe. I don't know when did they introduce that, where you saw the team of doctors looking at Russell Wilson. I don't know when that started on the sidelines, or
last week.
wow. So that was all because of Tua. Okay.
Oh yeah. Like I said, they fired the doctor. So I mean, I was surprised that Russell Wilson came back. Really, just because.
Yeah, me too. I was very surprised.
Yeah. So it just seems like I'm still waiting for a little clarity there. But I think, I mean, hey, the game's changed. Like so you have to kind of.
Sure. Oh yeah.
All right. Let's see. Do it. Yeah. Let's get into our predictions, and then I'll hit a couple of things here in the fantasy world as we get to them. So I had the Giants plus 7.5 at Green Bay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be that much of a blowout though. I think Green Bay wins, but not by 7.
Yeah, the Giants played close last week, wasn't it? Was it last week they played? No, who's that? That played Green? The Pats. Yeah, I think, what was it? The Pats plus 10.5.
Yeah,
and Green Bay just barely pulled it out.
Yeah, that was one I think I had an under because I didn't think 10.5 was too much of a spread. So they won, but more by 10.5.
No, they won by 3. Remember Green Bay? It went to overtime.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it went to overtime last week, I believe. I believe that's the game. The Green Bay and the Giants went to overtime, and the Green Bay pulled it out by 3. Pretty sure. Well,
yeah. When it comes to Sundays, I get 10 o'clock a.m. Then I got to work after that all night long. Any games after that, I have no idea what's happening.
Hey, that's why they got VCR, man. Well, no,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, VCR.
See how old I am? See,
yeah, I got the VCR. Love it.
Yeah. What is it? DVR now, right?
Yeah, DVR. I think that's. I don't know if they have anything different. Who knows what they have nowadays?
Yeah. So the Steelers plus 14.5 at the Bills.
Steelers 14. Wow. God. 14.5. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to go the under on that. I mean, Bills to me win this, but by 14.5, I don't think so. I got to go the under.
Okay, the Chargers playing at the Clowns, giving the Clowns 3.5.
At the Clowns. Yeah, that sounds about right. I can agree with that line.
The Bears plus 5.5. No, excuse me, 6.5 at the Vikings.
Kirk Cousins hasn't been playing all that spectacular lately. In divisional game, I'm going to go under.
Lions plus 3.5 at the Patriots.
I'm going to go the over with the Patriots. I think they win that by 7.
Oh man, okay. Oh, see, you're really getting things lined up for the Demetrius to come back, boy. First Michigan State now. Okay, all right.
No, the Lions tagging them on all sides.
Seattle plus 5.5 at the Saints.
Yeah, the Saints should win this. I would 5.5 fine. I think 7, but 5.5. I'd go with 5.5.
Okay. The Fins giving the Jets 3.5 at the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is not going to be moving mountains out here. So, but I think they're good. That defense is good enough to win. So I agree.
The Falcons plus 5.5. I mean, plus 7.5 at the Bucks.
This game could actually reach 10 points. So I'm going to go Bucks with the over.
Okay. The Titans minus 2.5 at the Commanders.
Yeah, that's a tight one. I could see even Washington winning. Titans 2.5 sounds good. I'd avoid that one.
The Texans plus 7.5 at the Jaguars.
That sounds about correct to me as well. Yeah.
The 49ers minus 4.5 at the Panthers.
I think 49ers win that by 7, so I'm going to go with the over.
The Cowboys plus 4.5 at the Rams.
I think the Cowboys could win this, even though they're playing in LA. So I'm gonna
Pollard.
Go.
No Tony Pollard.
Yeah, that hurts. I'm still gonna go with Cowboys on this.
Right. Okay, you're looking for a breakout from CD then. Okay.
Yeah. CD should be, unless Ramsey's on him all day, which is probably going to be the case.
Okay, now the Eagles giving 5.5 to the Cardinals at the Cardinals.
Ooh, that's interesting. I would expect the Eagles to be favored in that game.
They are. Yeah, that's what I said. The Eagles are giving the Cardinals 5.5.
Oh, they're giving 5.5. Okay. Yeah, I would take the Eagles and the over on this. And the Cardinals just don't look impressive, especially on defense.
Okay, the Bungles plus 3.5 at the Ratbirds.
I don't know. Lamar's going to struggle. Yeah, I think. Yeah, anytime there's like division rivals, 3.5. Either way, I'd probably avoid. So I'd avoid this one altogether.
Monday night, the Raiders plus 7.5 at the Chiefs.
I think Chiefs. That sounds like a good score. Chiefs 7.5, especially in Monday Night Football on the road. I'm gonna go the under though. This one I take a little gambling and go with the under.
Okay, you think the Raiders are going to cover, huh?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be a little bit closer than that. I mean, there's really no reason other than that it's a divisional rival, and Raiders and Chiefs usually play each other pretty well, pretty tightly. So 7.5 seems like a larger spread than I would imagine. I wouldn't put money down on it. I think I would actually. I would put money down on it. Yeah, I would. I just don't think it's going to be 7.5. I think it's going to be a less than that, like 4. Chiefs win by 4 kind of game, 4 or 5.
Oh, okay. All right. Um, well, let's jump into a little fantasy here. One of the questions, who's going to start this week for the Pats?
Oh, it's Bailey Zappi.
Now, I'm thinking back on the situation here. I know it's not quite the same names, maybe not even the same caliber, but Bledsoe Brady situation here.
No, but it's not too far off. He's very much a Mac Jones kind of guy. He really is.
I'm not saying in the sense of that he's going to go out and win 7 Super Bowls. I'm just
No.
yeah.
No, I understand what you're saying. Will he take over the starting job and then being in New England and everything?
Right.
Yeah, I don't. They're very, like I was saying, they're very, very similar players. Mac Jones just has a stronger arm, which isn't saying much, which probably says a lot more about Bailey Zappi, because Mac Jones is like maybe a little tad below average. So yeah, Zappi's arm is. So I would say no, but it wouldn't. It's one's a first round pick too. Yeah, it wouldn't. I could see coaches talking about it, but they wouldn't make the
change. Because of where they picked Mac Jones.
Yeah, Mac Jones, and that kind of stuff, and money talks, and we can't bench a starter, even though they did that with Tom Brady, and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if Bailey Zappi is more than a fill-in starter, anyways. So yeah, but they're not missing much in this offense. They're very similar quarterbacks.
What's the deal? Let's go through some of these fantasy picks, and then as you notice, there'll probably be some games that we didn't or that I didn't talk about here. But let's start with the Clowns quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. What do you think? Do we start him or sit him?
I think you can start him in two quarterback leagues, but not in one.
Okay. Where am I here? Okay. The rookie, Steelers' new quarterback, Kenny Pickett.
Oh yeah, are you excited about him?
I'm as excited. I'll put it like this: to see anyone back there except for Big Ben and Trubinsky, I'm fine. I thought, that maybe that they should have thrown him in a little bit sooner. I can see, why Tomlin took a little time, but I think now that he knows, that we're starting off. We're playing Buffalo Monday in Buffalo, so I'm going to say we're starting out 1-4. And Tomlin kind of realizes that this is probably going to be that losing season. So why not go, with the rookie and let him get, that baptism by fire, which is, kind of what I thought was going to happen anyway. But, when you have Trubinsky and your other quarterback is Mason Rudolph, are you kidding me?
Right.
I mean, seriously, Mason's been there ever since we broke up the battery, which was Mason to Washington, which we never saw really have any effect in the NFL like it did when they were in school. With I'm thinking, the college connection, coming to the same team, we're going to see that connection there. Well, that never worked out,
right?
And Washington is gone, so I really don't see why Rudolph is still there. But that's why I'm just a fan and not a coach.
Yeah, I mean, he's gone from a second, almost starter, to a second, to a third now. So now he's like, I don't know where they put Trubisky at. now that they demoted him. I don't know if they demoted him all the way to third or if he's a second or what. But
well, it's kind of like 2A and 2B. You know.
Yeah. It don't matter who's out there because both
Right.
suck.
Yeah. So it's it's just kind of the way it is. You spoke of him a little earlier, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, he's been struggling the last couple weeks. But that offense with those players are top notch. So I'm trying to see who they play. They play what are they? Good old Vikings. Oh, the Bears. Yeah, I think you could if you're looking like at 12 QB 12 Verge QB 12 kind of guy. Yes, but anything anything 1 to 11, no.
Let's see who else we got here. Sticking with the quarterbacks. Where am I? Okay, Jared Goff.
Oh, Jared Goff. They got the Patriots. Patriots are okay defensively. I think you can right now. Jared Goff's like a QB4, so it's like scary to start him, but I think you can.
You just picked the Pats and Zappy to beat the Detroit by what was it?
What was it?
3.5.
Yeah. So yeah, so since they're ahead, they're going to have to throw. So even more for Jared Goff.
All right. Well, then let's talk about the rookie Zappy. I mean, there's I'm not sure if some guys maybe have picked him up. Like they have picked up. Have dropped some of these quarterbacks. But do you think anyone is starting Zappy? And do you think he's going to put up decent numbers if they do?
No, I would stay away from Zappy. He's like 150 to 200 yards kind of guy and a touchdown. Nothing. There's so many other quarterbacks out there that you probably, and especially in one quarterback leagues, you definitely want to stay away from Bailey Zappy.
Geno Smith.
Yeah, he's doing really well. I think he's the QB8 on the year, so you could definitely start him. He's been very surprising and very pleasantly surprising. So, QB, yeah, you can fit him in one QB leagues.
Zach Wilson.
I can't start Zach Wilson until he proves to me that he's good. And then now they're playing the Dolphins as well, and that defense, no.
Tannehill.
They just don't do enough as far as throw the ball. I mean, they have a weak opponent in the Commanders, but I think it's more Derrick Henry than it is going to be Tannehill. So no, I'd say bench him.
Carson Wentz.
No. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know what happened. The first 2 weeks he played great. The last 2 weeks he played like doggy doo doo. I don't know which week this will be. If he'll be back to great again against the Titans. So I'm not going to trust it until it happens. So I'd have to bench Wentz.
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I like Trevor Lawrence. He had a rough day though. I'm sorry.
He had a rough day, but it was against the Eagles defense.
True. I mean, and now he has the Texans, which is very much of a sigh of relief going from the Eagles to the Texans. So I think you can start Trevor Lawrence.
Jimmy G.
No, I don't know if you could ever start Jimmy G in in the top 12. I think he's more of a good super flex quarterback, but never a top 12 quarterback.
Matt Stafford.
Ugh. Talking about someone who's fallen off. Yeah, no.
Is it the Rams and the 49ers this week? Who are the Rams?
No, it's the Rams and the Cowboys.
Rams and the Cowboys. Yeah, that's right. Because they're giving the Cowboys are actually underdogs, right?
Correct. They're 5.5 points underdogs.
4.5.
I got 5.5 here.
5.5. Okay.
Either way, yeah.
Yeah. Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow, yeah. I would say so.
He's been suffering. He's been suffering a little bit, but he's going up against the Ratbirds.
Yeah, that Ratbirds defense is not very good, especially as a secondary. So I think you could start Joe Burrow.
Derek Carr
against the Chiefs and Arrowhead, probably not. I'd avoid that one altogether.
I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
Now I realize that Green Bay is winning, but in most fantasy leagues, Aaron Rodgers had less than 17 points last week.
Yeah. What it's really interesting too. I'll tell you a stat just in a second, just as soon as I look it up. Aaron Rodgers, the last 3 weeks, has scored. What is it? I'm on the season. I think it's what is it? I just had it. Beautiful radio right here. 20.7 points. The last 3 weeks, he has scored exactly 20.7 points. 20.7, 3 weeks in a row. Now, I'm not a mathematician. I don't know the odds of that, but to me, that's just insanely crazy for a quarterback to score the same amount of points, 20.7 points, 3 weeks in a row.
So, I mean, are we looking for a breakout from Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I don't know. I think 20.7 is probably what you can expect out of Aaron Rodgers. He might go over it a little bit, 21, 22, but you can't expect more than a QB 10 to 12 kind of performance out of Aaron Rodgers.
Herbert, while he's hurt, he's still hasn't managed to put up his numbers, and San Diego hasn't been looking that like that title contender we thought they were.
Yeah, what happened to the AFC West? That was supposed to be the division that was going to just run over everybody, and that really hasn't been the case.
Yeah.
It's very, very odd. Yeah, he's a QB6 at this point. I think week 1 or was it 2? I think it was, or something to that effect. He had a sort of a down week. I still like him. You're going to start him regardless. He's, I think, like 5th in touchdowns right now as far as throwing touchdowns. Yeah, 5th in throwing touchdowns. He hasn't ran for one yet, but 1,250 yards. Yeah, I think you could start him.
Okay. Who else we got hanging around out here? See, he mentions that Zach Wilson. Daniel Jones.
Yeah, poor Danny Nichols. I think he's just sort of limited, especially without wide receivers to help him out. Sterling Shepard's out. Kenny Golladay is mentally checked out. And Kadarius Toney is always hurt. Wan'Dale Robinson seems like he's starting off his pro career on the injured list. The only one that really seems a player you can count on is Saquon Barkley, but he's a running back. So, Yeah, I don't think Daniel Jones can be in the top 12.
Let's see. Davis Mills.
Yeah, he's more of a top 24 kind of guy than a top 12.
I'm looking at the matchup though.
The matchup, Jacksonville's defense is really, really good.
Until the fourth quarter, it seems.
Yeah, I don't know. They sort of fall. Yeah, they fell apart against. Oh no, they didn't. They blanked the Colts. Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. I don't have those numbers, but yeah, I guess if it's the fourth quarter and they start to slow down, then Davis, especially if they're ahead, I could see Davis Mills starting to rack up some points. But again, he's sort of hampered by inefficient receivers. They're not, Brandon Cooks. I don't know if he's starting to get long in the tooth. He hasn't performed very well. So,
just kind of for shits and giggles, who do you think has the better numbers this week? Kenny Pickett or Zappy?
oh, that's an interesting. Are you talking total numbers or are you talking passing numbers?
I'm talking fantasy numbers.
Okay, so like running counts. I'm gonna go Kenny Pickett.
Oh, well, you might not be in Demetrius's graces, but you're okay with me. Okay, let's go through some running backs here. As you mentioned a few moments ago, Saquon Barkley, start him or sit him.
Yeah, you got to start Barkley. Barkley's a beast. I think he's RB1 right now. So, yeah, he's back to being Saquon Barkley again, which is nice to see.
But is 4 games a big enough segment for you to say that he's back to Saquon Barkley? We've seen him get off to these starts before and then all of a sudden disappear.
Yeah, injuries or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'm pumped up too behind him because I really was touting him as a player to get as far as return on investment because he was going in the second round, like middle of the second round, and I'm like, that is just way too late for him to go. He's a first rounder, I was really on his side, and then that's how he's come out. He's actually played better than I thought he was going to. I thought he'd be like, RB10, not an RB1. So there's a lot of emotions behind it too. So we'll see. But as far as right now, yeah, I think, so I think as long as he continues to do this, then there's no stopping.
While we're talking about that, AJ Dillon.
Yeah, he has not done well at all outside of week 1. So maybe you could start him, but you're not going to expect more than like RB20 kind of numbers.
Okay. Najee Harris.
Yeah, what's going on with Najee Harris? Oh my goodness. Are they just not feeding him, or he's just not going anywhere? What is going on with him?
Well, for one, I'm pretty sure if you look at his stats, they're not feeding him, and they've been playing from behind. So that kind of tells you the reason why they're not doing that. But
yeah, because he's been really disappointing. Yeah, I mean, you can still start him. I'd start him, but he's been disappointing.
Okay, then let's go over on the other side of the ball and talk about Mr. Stingley, starting with sitting.
I'm not sure on who that is.
I mean, Singletary. I'm sorry.
Oh, Singletary. Yeah, he's taken over a lot of that role. So Zach,
but he's not putting up fantasy points. I mean, he's taken over the role, but I mean, what's he got? 1 touchdown, 2?
Yeah, not much. If that, I know that he hasn't scored much. He never does. But if we're looking at top 24 performers, he's definitely inside that 24 range. Let's see. Right now he's an RB 23. He's actually has a touchdown, receiving touchdown, but does not have a rushing touchdown. But RB 23 on the season. So I mean, it's close. I mean, if you have, let's see, who's outside the 23 that like Melvin Gordon already played. Ramondre Stevenson might be better. Those kind of guys. I'm looking at the other names, and Travis Etienne might be a better play. But yeah, I can see it's not he's not going to fall to an RB 45 or anything.
Oh, okay. Mr. Carroll, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, Bill.
Hey.
Long time no see.
It has been a long time. Well, this is my third show of the day, so keeping it going. Yeah, I hosted a couple of shows earlier today, and now I get to be a guest.
Right on. Good to see you.
Yeah, we're just going through our fantasy list now of stardom and sit-em.
Oh, good.
And I'll let you can catch up with Mike here. So my first one, of course, was I think it was we're going to start on the quarterbacks here, even though we're a little further than that. My quarterbacks, start him and sit him. Jacoby Brissett.
Oof. What are your other choices? We joke, but I think Brissett has been a solid, slightly above average fantasy quarterback. So I feel like he's a high floor, low ceiling kind of guy, lower ceiling, but he's not going to crater on you, right? Worst case scenario, you're getting probably 11 points out of him in standard scoring, and best case scenario, you're getting about 18 or 19 points out of him in standard scoring league. But he's not going to, poop the bed, right? You're going to get, partially because of the way their offense is structured, he doesn't have to be spectacular for them to win games. And he isn't, and which is good because he can't be spectacular, but he can be good. He can be solid. So I think he's going to go out and give you probably about 16 and a half, 17, somewhere around that. 16 to 17 points is what I think he's probably going to give you. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. He doesn't make a lot of big plays, but he makes good plays. And though he's not an athlete, I heard someone say competitively athletic, which I'm not sure exactly what that even means, but it kind of makes sense when you talk about guys like Jameis Winston or guys like Jacoby Brissett. If you were to watch them just, in a combine setting, you'd be like, ugh, but in a football game with football players trying to hurt them, right? They'll somehow manage to get you a few more yards than you think a guy who moves like that would get you.
Steelers, the rookie starting this week, Kenny Pickett. Start him and sit him.
I mean,
they're playing the Bills.
Yeah, I'm probably sitting him. If I have a better option, I think he's going to have some really good moments and a couple of really bad ones. And depending on how punitive your league is about interceptions, because some leagues, they aren't that punitive. You might only lose a couple points, but I've done some leagues where you lose, half a touchdown, right, or whatever. So if you're losing 3 points or more, God willing, or God forfend, actually, heaven forfend, if you're losing 3 or more points off interceptions, he's likely to throw at least a couple. Not because he's bad, but because he's, a rookie quarterback who has just started getting starters reps. So, I mean, that's the rookiest of rookies, right? I mean, your first NFL start. You can't be more rookie than that. So yeah, sitting unless there's no other option.
Kirk Cousins.
Oh, that's a toughie. I'll admit that though I've never been high on him as a reality quarterback, I've always been high on him as a fantasy quarterback. In fact, I've often said, if Kirk Cousins was the same kind of reality football quarterback that he was as a fantasy football quarterback, he'd be worth what they're paying him. But he's looked a little off to me this year. But I think this is going to be a good week. I think it's a bounce back week for him. So I think he's going to be, once again, not a top 5 or even a top 8 fantasy quarterback, but he'll be a top 12 fantasy quarterback. So yeah, go ahead, run him out there.
Jared Goff.
I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have picked up Goff in a couple of leagues. I think he's going to continue. I don't think it's a fluke. I've seen this guy play since he was, 19 years old at Cal. So I always thought that people who were like trashing him, I don't know if it's, his fact he looked kind of like a, human version of a golden retriever. I don't know if it's, because he's kind of he's not that fiery guy. Like, I'm sure Jared Goff has yelled at somebody at some point in his life, but the person being yelled at was probably like, I'm being yelled at by Jared Goff. He's not intimidating. He may have a mean bone in his body, but I haven't seen it thus far. So maybe that's why people don't have that same sort of respect for him they have for some other guys. But he's been most of his career a pretty good quarterback. And people said, oh, it's the scheme. Well, every quarterback is either helped or hurt by scheme, right? Scheme is not something that just sort of is there. It's either helping you to be better or it's holding you back. It's never neutral, right? Scheme is always either positive or negative. And he's been in a situation where scheme has helped him, but scheme doesn't throw the football. Last I checked, right? The scheme doesn't make the decision. The scheme can help you to make it, but it doesn't make the decision. It doesn't, beat the leverage of the corner with a throw, which I've seen Jared Goff do both in Los Angeles and, of course, obviously where he is now. And I saw him go in a game where he's missing his 2 top receivers and still go for 400-something yards passing, I believe. So it's not a fluke. It's not a mirage. He's good. Yeah, start him.
Geno Smith.
Now, this one feels a little more mirage-y, but I still think he's going to go out and give you an above the median line. Whatever the median line is of fantasy points from a quarterback, he's going to be above that line. So unless you, once again, have a better option, yeah, run him out there. I think Geno Smith is a really interesting story of people, so many people giving up on a quarterback, which happens, especially nowadays, pretty soon. He's a guy that takes a while to learn certain things, but when he has them, he has them. If somebody was willing to do what they did with Bradshaw back in the day, which no one does anymore, but basically draft a guy in 1969 and wait for him until 1974 to really solidify himself, he would have solidified himself. But nobody waits that long nowadays. I'm happy for him. But he's a start.
Maybe that explains Mason Rudolph. Anyway. Okay. All right. I was looking for it. I'm just looking, to see why he's still there. Okay. Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill.
Ryan Tannehill's another really interesting story of what quarterbacking can and should be. At his best, he is a top 10-ish, maybe even top 8-ish quarterback. At his worst, he's still not, the worst, but he's, slightly below average at his worst. And he doesn't run as much as he used to. At least not intentionally. He doesn't run as much as he used to. He doesn't run. There's fewer planned runs than when he was younger. But he's still a guy that is, obviously is missing some things around him, but there's still chances to get big plays off play action when they can get them done.
Okay. What about Jets quarterback Zach Wilson?
Ooh, that's a toughie. The kid's talented, but he's, like so many rookies, he's wildly inconsistent. He can look like a future star stud on one play, or even like a stream of plays, like a whole possession, and then he can throw back to back. Oh my God, what are you doing interceptions? My scouting report when I was coming out of BYU opened with the first line was, is this Mormon Jay Cutler? He reminds me of Jay Cutler quite a bit in the way he plays. He really does. And Jay Cutler people forget how good Jay Cutler could look for stretches even. He could even sometimes put together a couple of good games, but then he would go out and Jay Cutler it up in the next one. The game makes me nervous. If you've got a better option, or even a slightly, I think he has such a low floor, though his ceiling is fairly high, but he has such a low floor that if it's a matchup where you need the quarterback to definitely give you at least 14 points, do not start him. if you're okay with the quarterback maybe giving you 8 points in a standard scoring league or giving you 22, because either one is equally likely to happen, then throw him out there. He's a ceiling play, not a floor play. I usually am a floor guy in fantasy, so for me, he'd be a sit.
Carson Wentz.
Ooh. Wow. Another sort of floor ceiling thing. I mean, he's literally capable of going out and giving you 3 points or 30 points. Guys like that scare me a lot. So he's usually a sit for me. But now I've said this, he's going to go crazy. 349 passing yards, 3 touchdowns passing, 1 rushing.
Yeah, okay. Trevor Lawrence.
What I will say is he has a slightly higher floor than Zach Wilson does, but I think he also has a slightly lower ceiling, at least in the passing game. He can give you something in the run game. So I'll say start, once again, unless, I mean, obviously you have a better option, but yeah, if you're stuck for a quarterback, your quarterback got hurt, or your quarterback scared the living daylights out of you, but playing absolutely awful, like Russell Wilson was your quarterback or something like that, and you've decided I've got to do something. Yeah, I mean, you can ride with Wentz for a while, but he's a temporary solution.
You mean Trevor Lawrence?
Both. Yes, it's true of both.
Jimmy G.
But you would ideally, you're strong at some other position, and you'll trade for somebody.
Jimmy G.
Boy, here comes the floor play. He is. I mean, he is. To his credit, he's never going to give you nothing or low single digits, but he can definitely give you a lot of 12 in standard scoring, 12 to 15 point games, partially because lower volume of passing than the average. I don't know what the average number of pass attempts is this year, but I know that in past years he's trended usually between about 12 and 15, I think, percentile below sort of the NFL average in pass attempts. But his touchdown, what's it called? He's produced a decent number of touchdowns. But however, it's a good, the ratio of touchdowns to attempts has always been fairly strong, but the number of attempts has always been fairly low, right? That's describing what it is to be a 49ers quarterback. Yeah, what the hell? Roll it out there. I think it won't be spectacular, but he'll be solid. I mean, it's like Brissett, right?
You said sitting, right, Mike?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Rams quarterback Matt Stafford, Bill.
Oof, man. I'm having a lot of these guys I'm really having trouble with. Okay, here's what I'll say. Stafford has not looked himself this year. I know he's not supposed to be hurt, but I think he's hurt. I'm just going to say it. I think I know it. I'm not accusing anybody of not reporting something they should be reporting. However, I've seen Matt Stafford since he was his sophomore year or maybe even before his sophomore. No, he started starting, I think it was halfway through his freshman year at Georgia. And I know what his arm looks like. Like when the ball gets there, it gets there with a lot on it. And the ball isn't coming out of his hand like he used to. And I don't think he just suddenly got old. I think he's got something wrong with his elbow or something. This is just me talking. I could be wrong. But something doesn't look right. I'm going to lean sit. I just think there's something off with him.
Well, then Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow feels like a must start to me. I mean, he's going to have some bad weeks just because they really struggle to protect him. My God, people, come on.
They're playing the Ravens.
Well, that helps, obviously. But is it the very much movable object versus the very resistible force? But I'm gonna start him.
Okay. Derek Carr.
Oof. Now, in full disclosure, I have Carr in 2 leagues. In one of the leagues, I've already moved on from him. In one league, I'm giving him at least 1 more week.
Well, I guess that answers that. I might.
Sort of, yeah. But since with my magic touch, he may once again be about to just go off. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm very much disenchanted with what Josh McDaniels hath wrought so far, at least.
We're going to running backs here. We'll be caught up with Mike here in a minute, but let's start with Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley is a metaphysical certitude must start.
Najee Harris.
Najee Harris is not a metaphysical certitude must start. I kind of predicted this. I didn't want to, especially I'm a Steelers fan, but I knew he was going to regress a little bit this year, partially because the offense was not going to be good, partially because of just, he had 383 touches last year, if memory serves me correct, or something like that. So I knew they're going to give him fewer touches, and he's not an explosive guy. When Najee is at his very, very best, it's that classic wearing on the other team, and then he gets a couple of late, close, short yardage touchdowns. That's how Najee gives you big points. And the offense has not been good in the red zone this year. And since Najee is never going to be a, break free and run for 50 yards kind of guy, I don't like saying this, but maybe for flex, you could toss him in there. But if you're about RB1, and definitely not RB1, and even RB2 feels a little squishy to me. I guess I could go RB2, but RB1, if the question is RB1, heck no.
Devin Singletary.
Heck no. Continue. Next.
Okay, you guys, that's where we stop, right, Mike?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, Mike, Rashad Penny.
Rashad Penny, no. The guy hasn't done anything against average defense. The only defense he blew up was Detroit's. So I'm going to say no.
They are playing Detroit, aren't they? Aren't the Seahawks playing Detroit?
No, that was last week.
That was right. He's already had his big day.
Yeah. Okay. Bill, Rashad Penny.
Now, I'm a Rashad Penny fan, but despite that, I am very much forced to agree with Mike. He's a decent flex play in certain situations, particularly like maybe a bye week or something, but you should have better options at RB1 and 2, unless you're in a super deep league, and I do play in deep leagues. So I've been forced at times to start it, but yes, if you're in a 12 or 10 team league, you should not be starting him at RB1 or RB2.
Yeah, the Seahawks are playing the Saints. So, yeah, okay. Jets running back Michael Carter, Bill.
That's a fascinating question. I'm a guy who likes Michael Carter, but I don't think he's going to get enough touches to ever be a reliable, at least in this situation, with the team he is now. I just don't think he's going to get enough touches to be a reliable RB1 or RB2. Once again, a flex play, I could say maybe, but no at RB1 or 2.
Mike?
Yeah, Breece Hall is starting to take over this offense, and it's starting to kill Michael Carter's volumes. So I'd stay away from him.
Moser. Mike?
He just doesn't get enough volume. If I knew he was going to get 15 to 20 touches, I'd say yes, but I just don't see that happening. So I'm going to have to say no to Raheem Mostert.
Bill?
Unless there's some injuries coming to the other running back, I'm going to have to pass. And I love Raheem Mostert. I'm such a big Raheem Mostert fan. When he was at Purdue, I made him a second team, all underappreciated team on my all underappreciated team his senior year. Huge fan of his, but he whether or not I think he'd be an RB1, it seems like the NFL has decided he is a running back by committee back, and that is not good for fantasy.
No.
Bill, Jeff Wilson Jr.
We live in strange times. Jeff Wilson Jr. is a start, and Raheem Mostert is not. But I can't be led by my emotions. I have to be led by the data. The data says Jeff Wilson's going to produce.
I can see him as a flex play. Yeah, that especially being on the 49ers, and he should get the majority of the snaps. So, yeah, I could put him there, the flex.
Well, do they have another running back to back him up? I mean, actual running back position that backs him up?
Well, yeah, no.
I think he is the third Or at least at one time he was the third option, wasn't he?
He was the third option. Now they have Marlon Mack and Tevin Coleman. They brought Tevin Coleman back, but
Yeah.
so
But those guys are, in case of a break glass.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on. I mean, I can't see Marlon Mack being trotted out there as a starter or a running back one or a running back two.
No,
I can't even see Marlon Mack as a flex. But did he get 0 points last week?
pretty
anyway.
much, yeah.
Okay.
I played in some very, very deep leagues. I have not played in a league so deep that anyone has started Marlon Mack.
Cam Akers. I think it's your turn, Mike.
He's barely a flex, but that's just barely.
Bill?
There's times when I hate that I was right. Everyone was super high on Cam Akers coming out of Florida State, and I said he's gonna have a decent NFL career, but he's not gonna be what you think he is. He's not the best running back on the team right now. The team looks better, moves better with Darrell Henderson, at least right now out there. Now, I'm not saying that's a permanent state of affairs, but no, right now he's a hard pass for me at either RB1 or RB2.
But here's the thing, though. When you look at the rankings, even though Henderson is there, Akers puts up the better numbers because they give him the most touches. Not necessarily, or at least that's the way it seems to me. But what about you, Mike? Does Akers get? It seems like they played Henderson the first 2 weeks, and then ever since then it's been it even seems like at times they try to force the ball to Akers.
Yeah. I think that's exactly how it's been. The first 2 weeks it was Henderson, and then the last 2 weeks it's been Akers.
What do you think about that, Bill? Do you think that they try to force the ball there? Because I don't know. I don't know. I mean, is it a matter of the money? Is Akers
Akers was a higher draft pick. It's sort of like you don't want Kirk Cousins to beat out Robert Griffin III. You know what I mean?
Okay, all right.
What you want to have happen. Now, if it happens, you have to at some point admit it's happened, but they would prefer to have Cam Akers emerge.
Okay.
And,
wow. It's not been that way at all, actually.
Right.
So the first 2 weeks it was as we talked about Darrell Henderson.
Yep.
Then week 3 it was a tie of 23 snaps each from Henderson and Akers.
Yep.
And then in week 4, Henderson got 44 and Cam Akers got 27.
Yep. Because the offense moves better, works better. And once again, this may not be a permanent state of affairs. I mean, Cam Akers is a guy that's come off a series of injuries. I don't know if he'll ever be the same guy again. I hope he is. I mean, I hope that he gets all the way back. But I just think you're going to see either an equal split or it'll be mostly Henderson. I think probably at least for the foreseeable future.
Bill, Miles Sanders.
Unless you've got, I don't know, LaDainian Tomlinson in his prime or something like that, or, he's outplaying Jonathan Taylor this year. He's outplaying, he's having a really good year. There's a handful of guys that take over, but unless you have an incredibly deep set of running backs, I can't imagine you wouldn't be starting Miles Sanders.
Mike?
Yeah, he's been doing pretty well. I'm trying to find exactly where he is. He's an RB10 at this point. So, I think you shouldn't have any problem starting him at all.
He is a start to me. And more, at least, once again, unless you're in some kind of 7-team league or something where you've got your pick of the best running backs available. But he's going to give you 12 and a half, 15, 13, 12, 11, 14, 16, go off for 20 a couple of times this year. He's going to have a really good year.
Yep.
Mike, James Conner.
I think you could still start him, but he's starting to lose time to the other Cardinals running backs. So he's still startable. Just be wary of if he might, start losing time.
Bill?
He's a strong flex play. He's an okay RB2 play. I think his days of being an RB1 are coming to an end, though.
Yeah.
Bill, the Bungles, Joe Mixon.
I still hold out hope for Joe Mixon. I still think he's gonna have a decent year. My earlier thoughts that he might be a top 4 or 5 fantasy running back this year are now pretty much dashed. No. But I still think he's going to have a solid.
Only if I drop him, then he'll become a top 4. Yeah. But for me to draft Bungles and Ravens is it's hard, but I try to draft not with my heart, but according to the best player. But
sure.
So far Joe Mixon has definitely been a bungle to me. But go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, right now he's an RB15, so he's still startable regardless. He's just not as good as he was last year.
Right.
Mike, Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs once again is in the top 10. I don't know why people every year find some kind of excuse why he shouldn't be in the top 10, that he should be RB22. But once again, Josh Jacobs proves it. People wrong. He's an RB7 on the year, so he's an automatic starter for me.
What do you think, Bill? Josh Jacobs against that Chiefs defense?
Yeah. I mean, you could pencil in 15.5 points for him probably. He's going to have obviously more PPR. But he's going to have a nice day at the office. He's going to have a very nice day at the office.
The Redbirds, J.K. Dobbins, Bill.
This is a tough one for me because I actually have J.K. Dobbins. And I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. It's a team that loves throwing the football. And somehow he's only had really one really strong week this year so far. Now, injury was part of that. He missed the first 2 games, I think. So health is always
missed the first 2. He missed the first 2 games.
Yeah. So health has always been part of the question mark. If this question was about flex play, I would say, toss him in there. If you're talking about RB1 or 2, if your other options are people like, obviously if there are people like Eckler or whatever, the answer is no. He's not. But if the other options are Melvin Gordon or something like that, then he's a yes. So obviously it depends on what your other options are, but he's certainly not a must start. He's a maybe start, but you don't want to hear maybe. I will say soft no.
So, okay. What about you, Mike? You a hard yes?
Yeah, I think I'm with Bill on this. I think it's a soft no, just because you just never know what's going to happen with this Baltimore rushing offense. It's either going to explode or it's not. So I'm going to say soft no for this one as well.
Mike, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, talking about someone who's doing really well. Efficiency, RB4, and I don't know if it's going to last, but until it falls off the cliff, I'm going to ride it. So don't fix it until it's broken.
All right. Bill?
He feels I think he's one of the really great RB2s. An okay RB1, but this is what feeling some breath on the back of your neck does for a player, right?
Yeah.
He's like, Isaiah Pacheco ran what in his pro day? Okay, honey. Take away all this and bring me like some kelp. He's in the best shape he's ever been as a pro. He's worked harder in the offseason than he ever has before. I'm 100% convinced that it's at least in part because he thought he might be about to lose his starting job. And Pacheco has looked really good, but I think it's going to end up at some point being a full-on timeshare like they used to have in Denver and like they kind of sort of have in Los Angeles, but not yet. So as Mike said, enjoy it while it lasts. Keep tossing him out there while he still gets the lion's share of the carries, because by week 12, that may not be the case.
Right.
Bill, wide receiver, Steelers, Chase Claypool.
Once again, I have to try to remove my emotions from the equation. I have had years where Chase Claypool was like this. His rookie year, right? He was this magical little flex find that I picked up off waivers, no less, in a couple of leagues, and carried me to Super Bowls, at least prop to carry me to Super Bowls. And then I've had some less fulfilling experiences with Chase Claypool more recently. Obviously, we don't know what he'll look like in a full game with Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett seems more willing to take chances deep outside the numbers than Trubisky. But we're still talking about speculation, if, maybes. I don't like those. I'm not a fan of things that might happen or, that I've never seen happen. So I'm going to still, once again, it's a soft no situation, but I'll be monitoring the situation closely.
Mike.
Yeah, I can't start Chase Claypool for anything. I think if anybody that's a wide receiver outside of Deontay Johnson, it's going to be George Pickens.
Yep.
Yeah. Deontay is questionable right now. I'm not sure. Yep. They haven't said anything else, just questionable. Mike, Bills wide receiver, Gabe Davis.
He had really
Gabby Davis.
Gabby Davis. Yeah, I think he really had two strong weeks in the first 2 weeks of the season, and then the last 2 weeks have not been good. He's had trouble hanging on to the ball, hanging on to passes. So you could probably start him in the flex if you're desperate, but you'd have to be pretty desperate to start Gabe Davis.
Yeah. Well, so I'll be running him out there in one of my very deep leagues because it's a very deep league. But yeah, if in a 10 or 12 or even 14 team league, probably you shouldn't be running him out there. But I play in some stupidly deep leagues. I still hold out a certain amount of hope for Gabe Davis. But this is true of his college tape, too. He would make spectacular highlight reel catches and then just drop something that hit him dead in the chest. I don't know what that is with him. It's almost like he needs to – it's almost like some passes are too easy for him to catch, right? It's like, now, if you just threw that a foot and a half behind me, I would have caught it. I don't get what that is with him. I need someone to explain to Gabe Davis that you don't get extra points for degree of difficulty on catches. Right. And you're allowed to catch the easy ones too. But yeah, he's a no unless, once again, a speculative kind of flex play, but no, you should not be running him out as wide receiver 1 or 2.
Bill, let's see, should be back this week. Alan Lazard.
That's an interesting study because in a normal, if you just run a bunch of simulations based on, the season not happening yet, but what you think is going to happen, and someone said Lazard or Gabriel Davis, you just laugh. Like, no, what are you talking about? Gabriel Davis. But now, in reality, and not a bunch of computer simulations, Alan Lazard, I still wouldn't run him out as wide receiver 1 or probably not even wide receiver 2, but I think he's a stronger flex play, a safer flex. This feels so weird to say, but he feels like a safer flex play than Gabriel Davis at this point. God, does that feel weird to say?
Yeah. What do you say there, Mike?
I think they're pretty much the same kind of player. You could put him in the flex and feel okay about it, but it's not great. It's just okay. Someone that could possibly put up some good points, and who knows what will happen, but I'll throw him in there anyways. And
please catch a red zone touchdown.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mike, Clowns wide receiver, Donovan People-Jones.
No, I can't trust a deep receiver with the average arm of Jacoby Brissett.
Bill?
What did the man just say, James?
Well, but you're the one that just gave Jacoby glowing review when we talked about him as a quarterback.
And if if you're talking to me about how it's going to affect David Njoku, I'm like, who's the man who's going to finally help David Njoku?
We'll get the tight ends in a minute.
But that's the point I'm making. If you were asking about that, because that's the Brissett effect, right? He's been 3 years, I think, with Baker Mayfield, and you would have thought he was literally in the witness protection program. All of a sudden, you bring in Jacoby Brissett, and it's like, oh, there's David Njoku. But it'll be the opposite effect for a guy like Donald Peoples-Jones. The man was correct. Move on.
Bears wide receiver Darnell Mooney.
I don't know where to start with him. Go ahead, Bill.
It's on Bill.
You lost me when you said Bears wide receiver.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm not too far away from Bill. I mean, he had a good last week, but the first 3 weeks were just and Fields doesn't throw the ball very often. I can't. And if Mooney starts to put like 3 or 4 weeks together, 2 or 3 weeks, 3 or 5, 4 or 5, 6, something together, a string of something, then I'll start leaning towards that. But until then, I just can't.
Mike, Adam Thielen.
He doesn't make a bad flex option, but it's not fantastic. He's kind of scary because he could put up a goose egg, or he could put up like 24 points. So yeah, roll it and risk it. It depends on how your roster construction. If you have a bunch of safe guys, bunch of floor guys, and you want someone that can boom or bust, then that would be Adam Thielen. If you have a bunch of boom or bust guys and you need a safe guy, then avoid Adam Thielen.
Bill?
I mean, literally, the man's giving you pearls, James. But I've got Thielen in one league, and he is literally I take him in and out of my lineup constantly, right up until kickoff time, almost every week.
Okay. Yeah. Just drives you crazy.
It is. Yep. He's the guy who's like, no.
Yep.
If you have any less maddening options, start that guy. Because you will drive yourself crazy with Adam Thielen. And yes, will he go crazy nuts and have a great game when you bench him? Yes. Will he give you 2.5 points when you start him? Also, yes.
Pats wide receiver Kendrick Bourne. Bill?
While it's a slight upgrade from when you say Bears wide receiver, I don't have a well of goodwill to devote to any of the Patriots wide receivers. And the one guy that I thought might have a breakout year, Hunter Henry, has instead just had a broken year. Kendrick Bourne, to me, is a deep league flex option. If you play in deep leagues and you needed a flex that has a decent ceiling, but a fairly solid floor. But, I mean, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2? No, I hope not. I mean, unless you, once again, playing stupidly deep leagues, which I sometimes do.
Mike.
Yeah, he's about as floor as you get. There's no ceiling to this guy whatsoever. So he's like the Muggsy Bogues of basketball. You just you got a little floor but no ceiling. So yeah, he's a safe play, but you're not going to expect much.
Seahawks wide receiver Tyler Lockett, Mike.
Yeah, with Geno Smith, it's not too bad. Again, I don't expect much out of it. A flex play only situation, but nothing where you're going to feel happy about putting him as a wide receiver 2.
Bill?
Yeah. What the man said. But the last two guys are 100% flex guys. Neither of them are guys that you should, once again, unless if you're in a 20-team league, then we'll have a different conversation. But if you're in a sub 20-team league, you probably should not be putting either of those last two guys in wide receiver 1 or 2.
Right. Jets wide receiver Elijah Moore, Bill.
Yet another player that has caused me much grief this year. I was predicting things for him coming into this season. I was sure he was going to go all the way off, and that Garrett Wilson was only going to help him because Garrett Wilson's now working the outside, helping him to free up, where he works underneath. 14, 15, 16. I was thinking he's going to average maybe 14.5. It's like, yeah, this guy's going to put up nice numbers. Nope. At this point, he is a middling flex play to me, which I hate to say because I'm such a big Elijah Moore fan.
Mike.
Yeah, right now, I don't know if things will change with Zach Wilson now at quarterback, but I think you avoid it. He's like a wide receiver 56 on the season.
Oh, God.
So I'd avoid him until now, but if you see a connection brewing between him and Elijah Moore, then you can feel more confident.
Bill, you're going to have to help me with the last name here, but Falcons wide receiver Olamide Zacharias.
Oh, Olamide Zacharias. So I've been watching him since his days at University of Virginia, and I thought to myself, this guy might make it in the NFL. If you ever told me that I might be running him out as a wide receiver 2, I'd be like, God, I hope not. but to his credit, when given a chance, sort of like Westbrook Akine, he's one of those guys who's like, I thought that guy would be like a special teamer, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, hang around the league for 7 years. Has some cool stories to tell people when he's a sales rep later. In a deep league, he could be a wide receiver 2 if it's a super deep league. But to me, he's mostly a sort of speculative flex play.
Mike?
Yeah, why? No. He's like a wide receiver 3 in Atlanta. And who does Atlanta have outside of Drake London? But it's, who knows? Kyle Pitts is out. Maybe he could be an option for you, maybe. But I would still steer clear.
Yeah, like I said, speculative flex.
Yeah, totally.
He's out. Maybe you get the bump up in volume. I'll toss him in the flex.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Wide receiver Robert Woods, Mike.
Again, the Tennessee Titans offense revolves around Derrick Henry. So Robert Woods is probably not going to do you much. He'll be better than some, but flex option, desperation flex only.
Bill?
My first sort of clarification question, James, is this a league that gives you extra points for crackback blocking by your receivers?
No, it's not.
Oh, well then no. It's in the answer.
Jags wide receiver Marvin Jones Jr., Bill.
Speaking of ceiling floor fights that you have with yourself, this guy's going to have 2 or 3 really big games this year, but when will they happen? Who knows?
Right.
He is exactly the kind of player I like the least to deal with, right? Because I almost would rather see if I can trade him to someone else and let them figure it out. Yeah, he's a no for me.
Yeah, right. Me too. He's a wide receiver 69 on the season. Yeah.
Nice.
Ayuk, Mike?
As long as George Kittle's healthy, they just don't throw enough to get three wide receivers or 3 receivers involved in the offense. So I can't start Brandon Ayuk unless George Kittle is not on the field.
Bill?
So, yeah, game script is the issue. Unless they get down early, right? So the two times when Brandon Ayuk has managed to be productive is either when they've got an injury to someone else, like Kittle, or when somebody just jumps up on them 17 points really quickly. Because generally this team is going to run the ball. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm going to bet. I'm going to go on a limb and say they're probably right around 48.5% or so run, probably about 51.5% pass. And like I said, I'm not crunching any numbers. I'm just going from when I watch them is what it feels like. And that is, I think, is either I know it's in the top 3, I think, in run percentage, which is great if you have one of their running backs, not so one of their receivers. So yeah, maybe a desperation flex situation, as Mike alluded to earlier, but for wide receiver 1 or 2, I can't pull the trigger on it.
Bill, Panthers wide receiver Robbie Anderson.
That's a fascinating one too. See what I said about Marvin Jones earlier. He's going to have probably 3, maybe even 4 monster games, 26.2 points, that kind of thing. And then he's going to be invisible about 6 games this season too. And I just don't feel like dealing with that. So once again, if I can trade him to somebody, even if it's not the world's best trade, I'm probably going to try to do it just so I won't have to figure that guy out.
Mike.
Yeah, Robert Woods, I said, is a wide receiver 53. Robbie Anderson is a wide receiver 54. Really no interest in either one of those guys.
Michael Gallup. Mike.
Yeah, I like Michael Gallup. He caught a touchdown last week. I don't know if that's going to continue, but I think he only caught like 2 passes as well. We'll see how much further he can do coming off this injury. But it's flex option only at this point.
Yep.
Bill, you agree with that?
What's to disagree with? But yes, I think he might even be a really strong flex play depending upon, once again, game script and things like that. But yeah, I couldn't pull a trigger on playing in anything other than the flex at this point.
Devontae Smith, Bill.
In fact, I want to ask Mike about this. So I've taken him in and out of my flex spot many times. This is not one of my deeper leagues. This is like a normal 12-team league. I really like him, but I've already got A.G. Brown in the lineup. And sometimes I'll do that. I'll just flood my lineup with players from one team. But he's a start for me, yes. Now, if I'm starting him in this particular situation is a battle I'm having with myself. But because I'm very strong in the wide receiver spot in this league. But he's right now on my bench. Right now I've got, Cortland Sutton at flex. Thank you very much. But he's giving me 12.4. I've got Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson. So I couldn't put him in over either Devontae Adams or Justin Jefferson. Right. But in a normal league, yeah, I'm probably starting Devontae.
Mike?
Yeah, I mean, he's a wide receiver 30, so it's definitely a lot more promising than the other guys. But yeah, I think if your normal personnel, where you have like one really good wide receiver and sort of an average one, you could probably find a spot either as a wide receiver 2 or flex.
I believe Bateman is out this week, Mike. So Duvernay.
Duvernay is definitely the deep threat. It's just wondering if Lamar Jackson's going to connect with him. This defense is really tough. I'm going to say no. If it was an easier defense, I would probably be on board with it, but not with this defense.
What do you think, Bill?
My little nickname for Devin Duvernay right now is Double Deuce, right? I mean, it's not Double D, but Double Deuce, because you're either going to get 2 touchdowns or 2 points, but you don't know.
Right.
So, as I've said before, I don't like the guys that make me crazy. I really liked him coming out of Texas. I hope that they decide to carve out a really distinct role for him. I mean, as you say, he's a deep threat, but I hope they start making deep attack passing a regular part of their offense. Because one, it'll help to open up their run game. Right. Ravens, if you're listening to me, take at least 2 deep shots per quarter, and you'll be able to run the ball better. Because right now, they're not scared at all of your deep pass attack. They are trying to take away Mark Andrews, and then stop the run. And they figured at that point they pretty much got it done. Oh yeah, and worry about Lamar taking off and running. But if you start getting a couple of 30, 40, 50-yard plays, even if you try 8 of them and only 2 of them work, or one of them is a big connection, the other one's a big pass interference, Now that defense has to start playing a little differently because they've given up 2 big plays to him. But yeah, sorry, that was my aside to the Ravens. But yeah, no, not yet. I mean, I think at some point in Dynasty, he's a stash and hold.
Bungles, Tyler Boyd, Bill.
Somebody said earlier that somebody was no ceiling, all floor. Welcome to a guy with a challenge for that title. I'm not looking at any numbers, but I just have a really good feeling for who he is. You know, hey, do you want 9.6 points or do you want 7.7 points? If you want either of those two things consistently, Tyler Boyd's your guy.
Mike.
Yeah, I mean, he can have a really good game, but it's like 1 good game, 3 bad ones. And that's just because he's a wide receiver 3. If he was a wide receiver 2, I'd be all about this, but he isn't. T. Higgins is the wide receiver 2 on that team. So not until bye weeks or injuries. If you're desperate and you're injury, then maybe look at Boyd, but no, otherwise.
Boy, you guys have a lot to say about Thielen. So, Mike, what do you got to say about Hunter Renfrow?
He's coming off missing 2 weeks because of a concussion. I have to stay away for right now. Until plus that Raiders offense is so crowded with receivers. He doesn't really have a role like he did last year. His roles changed. So I stay away from him.
Bill?
So I have Hunter Renfrow in one league, and I keep saying to myself, soon, right? Soon. He'll break out soon. You know, like you tell yourself when you don't want to give up on a player. But I'm willing to listen to offers if somebody wants to trade for him. Yeah, Mike's right. Unless you're in an incredibly deep league or it's a bye week or something, until he shows me something different, he's not a start.
I'll eliminate one of these guys here. Mike, Chiefs wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, he's sort of like Hunter Renfrow. He's going to catch like 4 passes for 60 yards, and that's about it. Right now, he's the wide receiver 48 on the season. So another desperation flex, if anything. But if you have options, definitely go with those options.
Bill.
So he's a lesser version of Tyler Boyd in fantasy, right? You heard what I said about Tyler Boyd. Hey, do you like 7.7 points or maybe 9.6 points? If so, Tyler Boyd's your guy. And then knock about a point off each. And now you're talking about Juju Smith-Schuster. Will he have a week where he gets 2 red zone touchdowns or something? Probably. But outside of those weeks where he gets hot or, you know, or somebody gets hurt or something, he's going to be a guy that is at 4 for 60, you know. If that's what does it for you, then yeah, enjoy.
Tight ends, Firemuth, Bill.
Well, I mean, unless you have, you know, Mark Andrews. Actually, Mark Andrews has had only an okay year for him at least. But unless you've got, I don't know, Kelsey. Who else has been elite this year at the tight end position? I mean, Waller hasn't really done all that well. Unless you have one of the really top elite tight ends, I imagine Firemuth has to be a must-start week in and week out.
Mike? Yeah, right now he's the tight end 7. So I don't have a problem starting Freiermuth. Zach Ertz, Tyler Higbee, Gerald Everett are the only ones in front of him outside of the Kelseys, Andrews, and Hawkinsons. And Hawkinson only because he had such a huge game.
Yeah, 130-point game or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, that was insane. So I would say, yeah, he's a tight end guy. You can start. Why not?
Njoku, Mike.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett and tight ends love connection, and so 100% you can go with Njoku.
Bill.
I mean, like similar to what I said about Freiermuth, unless you've got one of the top dudes, then yeah, you're running them out there.
Vikings, Irv Smith Jr., Bill.
Now, I have to try to separate my emotions. I didn't like him coming out of Alabama. I was not a fan of his. I've never really bought into him. But if you're in a deeper league or you drafted a tight end who's, hey, maybe Kyle Pitts was your tight end and now he's out. Yeah, pick him up and start it. But I don't think he's ever going to be productive enough, consistently enough for you to be your tight end one in fantasy on a team.
Mike.
Yeah, I'm sort of disappointed in him. I thought he was going to be a lot better, but he hasn't really shown that at all. Doesn't mean he won't be, but at this point of his career, he's just been a huge disappointment. So, no, I wouldn't start him.
He didn't produce like a tight end one in college. He's never done it in the pros. I'm not saying it can't 100% can't happen, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't see it.
Hunter Henry, Mike.
Yeah, no, I don't know what the heck happened to Hunter Henry. He's disappeared completely. I mean, he's not even. I mean, he used to at least catch a pass and touchdowns here and there.
He's not even on the milk box.
Yeah, he's not even on the milk box. So no.
So does he make his breakout this week?
It's
Bill?
possible. I mean, it's someone who's been as consistent guy that he's been. You'd wonder if you're sort of waiting for it, like Bill was saying. You're like, is this going to be the week? But with tight ends, there's a lesser chance of that happening. So I'm gonna say no.
Bill, does he make his breakout this week against the Dolphins?
If this were one of those bye-week flex situations, I'd say toss him out there. But, I mean, you should have a better option at tight end one. You should.
Okay. Disley, excuse me. Bill?
I am starting Will Disley in 2 leagues. So, now I play a lot of deep leagues. But Will Disley has been just percolating along.
Yep.
What is he like? Wide receiver 12 or something? What is he, Mike?
Yeah, he's wide receiver 11.
11. Okay. Look at me just guessing stuff. Almost.
He nailed it pretty much.
Most pretty close. I don't run the numbers, but I watch a lot of football. Do you have one of the top 10 guys? No. If you don't, yes.
Yeah,
that makes all the sense to me. Yeah,
he's number 11, I guess so. Yeah. Yeah, all right. True officer's mentality there.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, 10's gone. Let's get 11. Yeah,
get 11. This one goes to 11.
Mike, tight end Logan Thomas.
No, he's too banged up. I mean, and where is he? Logan is wide receiver, tight end 15. I'm sure that at this point, managers have more or better tight ends than him. So I would say no.
Yeah. But if you are not 1 of 14,
if you don't have one of those guys, then absolutely 100%.
If you're playing in a 16-team league,
yeah, 16-team league. Yeah, exactly.
But you would prefer not to.
Yeah, you prefer not to. But if that 16-team league, you got to roll with it.
So where you got Logan there, Bill?
I mean, Mike nailed it. I watched his entire career from his time as a pretty darn good quarterback at Virginia Tech to making the transition to being a tight end to dealing with a series of injuries. I mean, it'd be one thing if he got hurt once, but I think at least 3 of his seasons have ended due to injury, I think, if I remember correctly. That's not what you want. Yeah, I mean, that. Once again, if it's a deep enough league, you're running him out there. But if you're in a 10 or a 12 game team, or even a 14 team league, you probably shouldn't be running him out there. But anything over 14, probably
yes. George Kittle, Bill.
How the mighty have fallen. I mean, he's a strong-ish flex play. This sounds crazy to say, but once again, how many teams in your league? If it's a 12-team league, this sounds crazy, but I don't know I don't know if you're running Kittle out there with the 12 team.
Where's Kittle, Mike?
Yeah, he's ever since I think what was it, week 10, 11 of last year, he's disappeared. He's played 2 games this year because of injury. Yeah. And he's caught 6 passes on 9 targets in 2 games. So he's averaging three receptions for like 26 yards. It's, as Bill said, the mighty has fallen, and they've fallen far. So until I could see something out of Kittle right now, the answer is stay away.
Dalton Schultz, Mike.
Yes, there you go. But he's also coming off an injury. So I think you can, but it's a risk.
Well, the thing of it is that I've seen Rush throwing the ball more downfield, so I don't know where Dalton is on his list there, but he seems to have his biggest connection with what's the young kid that he's been throwing to.
You talking about Noah Brown?
Yeah. I mean, that seems to be his strongest connection. He hasn't thrown that much to CD or to Gallup, but what do you think about Schultz there, Bill?
If you have the ability to play someone else for 1 week to sort of check him out to make sure he's all the way back, do so. But if he's by far your best tight end, which is probably the case in most leagues, yeah, he's your best tight end. What are we talking about? Put him out there.
Tyler Higbee, Bill.
God bless you, Tyler Higbee. I have Tyler Higbee in, I think, 3 different leagues. And once again, I watched him back in his days at Western Kentucky. I think Mike White might have been his college quarterback at Western Kentucky.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if you checked out that crazy Bahamas Bowl with Cooper Rush, right? In that game as well. But I think they may have set a bowl game record for points. I think it went to 2 overtimes. It was like 53-52 or something. But I've been watching Tyler Higbee since he was at Western Kentucky. I've been a big fan of his all the way along. And I was a little bit afraid they were moving on from him. And it's like, so I took him late in a few leagues, and it's like, well, hold on to him, see what happens. And like, oh, yes. All the sweet, creamy Tyler Higbee goodness that I somehow hoped for has been flowing for it. Will it last? I don't know. But as Mike said, as long as it lasts, just keep riding it.
Yep.
Mike, Tyler.
Yeah, I agree with Bill. He's all of a sudden become really good. I think a lot of that has to do with Van Jefferson not being there. Yep. And of course, Odell Beckham. We don't know what that situation is, but he's really their second receiver because he can rely on him. Allen Robinson's supposed to be the second receiver, but we've seen Allen Robinson not do anything. And so Matthew Stafford really likes Tyler Higbee, and so far so good.
Dallas Goedert, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the top 5 tight ends. Jalen Hurts likes to go to him quite a bit. So, I would say Dallas Goedert for sure.
Bill?
Yeah, Dallas Goedert. And I have one super Eagles heavy. I didn't do this on purpose. But I have one team in my one phase that is super Eagles heavy. I have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert in one of my leagues. And Goddard's done very, very well. And once again, unless you have Zach Ertz, Tyler Higbee, Andrews, maybe Andrews is sort of a question mark. But Kelsey. Yeah, Kittle is way down the list. And even Kyle, obviously Pitts is hurt, but even when he wasn't hurt, he sort of fought. I mean, so a lot of the guys we thought would be great tight ends have not really come through. But this guy, I mean, unless you have one of the top guys, yes, definitely you're playing.
Yeah.
Bill, Zach Ertz.
You could literally take what I just said and replay it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, very true. Yes, I agree with Bill. It's like two sides of a coin. Yeah, both of those guys.
It is eerie how some of those guys' careers have been. Despite that one's significantly older, but they're very similar guys. I mean, once again, the Philadelphia Eagles clearly have a type at tight end.
Well, Bill, as always, man, we thank you for joining us. Give Mike a little break here, a little competition for us talking. I'm gonna have to start keeping track on our picks here, especially on the point spread. So some sleepers and waiver watch, Bill, and your final thoughts.
Well, now this is the part where I injure myself, patting myself on the back. I've been telling everybody for a couple of years that Khalil Herbert in Dynasty, people were smart. I think got Khalil Herbert, pretty low and held on to him, and now they're going to get an RB1, hopefully for the foreseeable future. And there's other guys around the league who I think have that potential. Isaiah Pacheco has that potential. A guy you probably got really cheap, really got super late. He might have literally been the last player picked in your draft, depending on how many players, how deep your league is. And he's just a stash guy. I mean, once again, he's not going to do that much this year. So if it's a redraft league, he's less valuable. But in a dynasty league, that's a hold. That's a strong hold for a guy like Pacheco. And then maybe less well-known players I could see falling into that same sort of category. Tyler Algier is a guy that both in fantasy and now even in redraft is a acquire if you can, and hold. Now that just because that offense is just what it is, he's never going to have like amazing production, but he can be a really solid RB2 certain weeks. Other players that I think can sort of fall into that similar category. I mean, Corey Davis is a fascinating story, right? He's had almost two entirely separate careers, very highly touted, coming into the league, somewhat of a disappointment, has sort of reinvented himself, and has essentially become one of the better wide receiver twos in all of fantasy, I would think. I don't know exactly what his ranking is, but it's probably in the early to mid-20s, maybe. But whatever it is, you probably got him super late or reasonably late in the draft.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what is he ranked?
26.
Okay, so yeah, look at me. Okay, so he's ranked 26, and once again a guy that we have to toss him out there as a wide receiver 2 in a bye week. You feel good about it. He's a flex several times this year based on matchups and things like that. There's guys around here, and then what the hell, Will Dissly. Quick shout out for Will Dissly. I remember when Will Dissly was coming out of University of Washington, and I was like, okay, blocking tight end, he'll hang around the league for a few years. And that's what he'd been, actually. Like, he was that for the Bengals for a little bit. He ends up going to Seattle. It's like, oh, I guess Seattle wants another blocking tight end. And now he's become one of their leading receivers, and admittedly a somewhat dysfunctional passing offense, but there's weeks where he's going to lead that team in receptions. That's probably not by design, but there's going to be weeks where Will Dissly is going to lead that team in receptions. Let that sink in. Yeah. So once again, you probably got him off waivers. I know I did. But there's weeks you're going to start him. There's weeks he might be able to flex at times, depending on how deep your league is. There's guys like that, and you just have to really work the waiver wire, which is, that's my thing. I'm not the world's greatest drafter, but I can work the waiver wire. And so these are the guys I'm throwing out there are waiver wire finds, depending on how deep your league is, and in some cases in Dynasty, guys that you may have actually drafted, but there's some guys out there.
Hey, well, thanks as always, Bill. Appreciate your time, man, and glad you could be a guest on Mike's show. Like,
yeah. And if you're into college football, check out College Football Forecast. We had an amazing guest on today, Montel Hardy. It goes live 7 a.m. Eastern, 6 Central. And for the very early risers, 5 a.m. in the mountain. And for the night owls, for the insomniacs on the West Coast, it drops at 4 a.m. College Football Forecast on Nuts and Bolts Sports. It's one of our best episodes so far. I'm not just saying that. Montel Hardy's a fantastic guest.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But 4 o'clock in the morning.
4 o'clock in the morning, not so much.
Well, luckily, it'll be on YouTube. You don't require to watch it the moment it drops. You can wait.
So you are. It is on YouTube.
Oh yeah. Everything I do is on YouTube. Either it's live or recorded, but everything I've done for years is available on YouTube.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we can find it under William Carroll or
Go to Nuts and Bolts Sports, and Bill. But yeah, if you go to Nuts and Bolts Sports and you go to the college football, so you have little tabs you can click on for what's the word I'm going to playlist. That's what it's called. If you click on the playlist for college football, that's almost all me and/or Brock. And we're still looking for more college football contributors. So ABC, always be recruiting. If there's anybody who'd like to do a little writing about college football, we're always looking for more college football.
Okay. Sweet.
Mike, sleepers, waiver watch. Final thoughts. Take us home.
Yeah, for waiver wires, look for Rachaad White.
Yes,
and I agree with
available. Yes.
I also agree with Bill with Isaiah Pacheco, George Pickens for you, James, and then let's see. Let's do a quarterback. Let's go with another Steeler and Kenny Pickett for waiver wire. So get you two of those in there for you, James. And then sleepers. Travis Etienne against Houston, and another running back, Devin Singletary, against the Steelers. So two pros, one con for you. Still ahead for you, James.
Oh man! And can we expect 15 points out of the Colts week after next?
I don't know. You're asking for a lot there. You're asking for a whole lot. I don't know.
All right, guys. Well, hey, man.
And then some field goals, and yeah, I mean,
maybe if McLaughlin could hit 5 field goals, maybe.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. Then it'll be 15-12, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh.
Bill, I got to ask you, what did you think about the last 2 minutes of last night's game?
There was a Mark Twain quote that says, "The coldest winter I ever endured was a spring in San Francisco." And what I will say is that 2 minutes was the longest hour of my life.
Oh my God.
So on one of the shows I did earlier today, that was actually, I had a question sort of built around that and said, for your favorite team, you have to choose one of these quarterbacks, either Matthew Thomas Stafford or Russell Carrington Wilson. And I said it was a gun to your head scenario. And I said, but you cannot choose death. Yeah, I mean, that was some rough football, man. I've been watching football a long time. Woo, baby, that was rough.
Well, I guess, Mike, what'd you say? The worst in 40 years?
Yeah, like 42 years of watching football. I'm just like, and and that's my team too. That's the team I root for, and I'm like, this is garbage. This is just crud. So yeah, it's bad.
Here's the crazy thing: the quarterbacks, each of them is looked at as at least a borderline Hall of Fame candidate, at least, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep.
I mean, wow. I mean, it's crazy because I watched a Geno Smith, Jared Goff game, and it was incredibly fun to watch.
Right.
The world is upside down.
Yeah, crazy. It's chaos.
Let's all get on the plane and let's watch football in London, man. It seems like they're more exciting games. But all right, guys. Hey, man. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. And the winners are. And I look forward to talking to you, Mike, next week. And Bill, we'll hook back up together next Thursday.
I will see you Thursday. Yes.
All right. Take care, gentlemen.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. See you next week.
Bye.
Bill, you around Monday?
That's, what do you call it? That's Columbus Day, right?
Oh, is it Columbus Day? Well, nobody. Yeah, it's not like it's the 4th of July or nothing.
No, I mean.